Hello, warriors. Welcome back to another episode of the Cleanse Heal Ignite podcast, Warrior Wednesday, Doc Talk with Dr. Diane Kaiser, yours truly. And if it's your first time here, welcome. I wanted to introduce myself because we are getting a lot of activity on Rumble, not so much on YouTube because we are pretty much censored on all meta platforms. That's why we are doing things on Rumble. If you guys are listening or watching, can you please make sure that you hit subscribe, follow, and share with your friends in the comment below. It's really, really important that we get true voices out there on things that are happening, not just in the peptide space, the regenerative medicine space, but also the foundational medicine space, the functional health space, things that have been around for thousands of years, if not tens of thousands of years, that are super important that if you are going to embark on any kind of peptide or regenerative medicine, anything, including also stem cell, there's a way to do this where there is a level of personal responsibility and accountability, where what we do and our values in the ministry are to invite you, encourage you to be and actually empower you to be your own best doctor. You know, we are here to help you guys make decisions so that, they're saying again in July, the power grid's going down for like 10 days, there will be darkness. I mean, there's all kinds of who knows information out there. But if there ever is a day, you know, when you don't have access to this podcast or even the internet or even purchasing food, what will you do if you're standing on your own? What will you do? That's what we are all about. We do not want you to be codependent on us. We don't have a guru complex or God complex to say, I am the all-knowing. We share information here on the podcast with our guests and myself and our Chi team, who's an amazing group of empowered women who are really, truly here doing the work to help you cleanse, heal, ignite, to cleanse your body and your environment, to heal your hormones, your gut, and your cellular structure, so that you can ignite the true inner workings of all the systems of your body and the dreams that you have, so that you're setting your dreams on fire and not your body. Because now the crazy statistics are that actually I was listening to, I think it was on the Rogan podcast, which we're going to share some clips on today to update you guys on what's happening in the peptide industry. I can't follow it. It's wild. It's fast moving. It would be a full-time job if I even tried. I barely have time to get my hair done before a show, so I keep it simple. But there's a lot of things changing. And one of the things I heard today is that 4 to 5 is the average number of prescriptions that the American adult is taking. And that happened fast. That changed very, very quickly. And so that should scare the health into you and the hell out of you. Why? Because medications are literally the opposing polar opposite of the spectrum as peptides, which, reminder, you make 40 different types of peptides in your body every single day or more. And you're making 7,000 to 8,000 of them as volume. So none of these are things that are new. They're nothing random. You are using these peptides to sell signal so that your body can actually communicate. Imagine if you had a family unit at home and nobody talked to each other. I mean, that's pretty standard today when you look at the family dinner table, right? No one's really talking to each other. People are on their phones. So it's as above, so below, really. Communication is essential. It's like if you ask like what the number one thing that's important for families and relationships, if they were to thrive, it's what? Communication, right? Expressing our needs, our values, our wins, our failures, our fears. We have to be able to communicate, right? So it's happening inside. It's just like if you were in a relationship or a marriage where you're not communicating. And so what peptides do and what your creator empowered your body to do is to communicate between organs and tissues and your brain and your hormones. Without that, your body's in chaos. It's at war. It's inflamed. It's chronically ill. It's headed down the road toward cancer. And then we're taught to, of course, we're programmed. I don't care how much you say that you don't watch TV. We've been programmed since birth to ask your doctor for the next medication, which does the literal opposite of what peptides do. What the manufacturers, the drug companies, and the insurance companies that push them, and the doctors that are trained to prescribe them do, these medications literally turn off cellular communication. They deactivate your immune system. They are the proverbial family at the dinner table and nobody's talking. That's your body on the inside. So peptides have become very popular very quickly. And we've been talking about it on this podcast for 2+ years. We were doing amino acid therapy with our patients prior to that. And peptides are chains of amino acids. So amino acid therapy is integral. What I mean by that is there specific amino acids like lysine that's good for herpes, glycine that's good for leaky gut. A lot of these things have been around for a long time in foundational health and functional medicine, but peptides just started getting extremely popular in the last 2 to 4 years. But now everybody seems to be talking about it. Why? Because there are tremendous benefits. People are able to get off medication. They're able to lose the weight. And I want to make sure that we always keep these in 2 different buckets, right? There's the peptides that are now in GLP form that are prescription drugs, and retatrutide is in phase 2 clinical trials. It's about to go into phase 3 and probably will be available as a drug in 2027. Probably will not be covered by your insurance. And if it is covered by your insurance, as we've talked about in the shows before, it's not going to be a lot. And a lot of people may have to go out of pocket if there are changes to people's insurance, which happens all of the time. And I'd love to hear in the comments below if you guys are taking any of these things. If you're following me, you probably aren't. But if you've heard of friends or family members, or maybe you have taken in the past, what were they paying? What were they taking? And I'm saying, what were they paying per month? And what were they taking specifically that is a GLP-1 medication? And were they successful? And how did they define success? If success is just weight loss, then we're screwed. Nope. Although obesity, it's not a genetic disease, it's an epigenetic disease. It's a disease of being poisoned and programmed and pathologized, and lots of parasites, and the truth has been hidden for us for decades as to truly how to lose weight at the functional health level. So GLPs is the easy button. But going back to what I was saying with these insurance companies, if your coverage changes, if you change jobs, or if there's exclusions happening, I'm going to talk today about AI now as the interference of who is approving your insurance claims, and that is wildly scary. We'll talk about that today. But what I've seen in a lot of other videos where people are covering GLPs and the future of them is that people were once covered. Maybe they were paying $50 a month, $100 a month for something like Ozempic or whatever, Wegovy or Mounjaro. And then their policy changed, and all of a sudden they're paying $600 a month. And they were reliant upon that medication, and all of a sudden they can't afford it. They get off of it. They gain weight 4 times faster than dieters alone, which is now what we found in cohorts. And why? Because they've never addressed the root cause of why they were obese to begin with. Then they end up on all kinds of other medications. Then they end up probably having knee replacement, joint replacements, hip replacements, back surgeries, shoulder surgeries, missing organs, pancreatitis, thyroiditis, and colonitis. Really, truly, when your colon's inflamed, this is how, and what we're seeing now is 1 out of 2 patients who are getting colon cancer are happening in the youth. And the youth are taking GLPs too, in the form of prescription medications as preventative for obesity. So just because your insurance company may approve something now does not mean that they're going to continue to do so. And I'm saying this because now is the time to get on this train of peptides if you've ever considering it, because Retta is still something that you can purchase through research grade peptides through the link that we're sharing here. I'm not recommending anything. This is not medical advice. This is for information and education purposes only. And so I'm happy to support you guys in some of these questions. We're actually having a webinar tomorrow about this. If you go to dianekaiser.com/webinars, you guys can sign up for that. It's totally free. And once you sign up, you also will be available to ask questions live. And then we'll have a replay where you guys can see I think we're talking about doing it till the end of April. And we were recording this on April 22nd. So the idea is that you start taking the bull by the horns, the unicorn by the horn, and do this for yourself before it's no longer available. Doesn't mean that you still can't use other peptides like SLUP, SLUPP, which in studies, the first month, mice without changing anything lost 12% of their body weight. And we've been talking about this a lot. So there are non-injection options, and SLUP isn't just something that helps you melt fat. It's actually an exercise mimetic. It helps you to build your endurance, prevents muscle wasting. It builds stamina. It builds strength. And this is what they found in my studies. And so we are going to talk today. Thank you, Paula, for sharing this. It's not that expensive. It tends to be like $50 a month if you're taking one capsule. You can take two, or consider taking two if you are over 200 pounds. So there are so many other options other than just taking a Tide, semaglutide, retatrutide, tirzepatide. Although that is the loudest message that you're hearing, because I think it was like 1 out of every 3 Super Bowl commercials were something about some Tide, retatrutide is coming, but something like Ozempic or Wegovy or Mounjaro, and they make it sound like it's great. But I've seen behind the scenes. I'm a doctor. I have lots of friends who have taken these things, and they end up extremely injured because these foundations are not brought into taking a GLP, and they just jump on the easy button. There are consequences to the easy button, and I'm not saying these GLPs do not have benefits. I'm saying that if you don't do them right, they can have long-term unknown consequences because there is no data on them that the FDA is providing, and we're going to talk about that today. Okay, so, and I'm not saying no data, but it's very limited. So what I'm going to talk about today is going to surprise you. The videos I'm going to share is going to surprise you. So that webinar, Thursday, April 23rd. Again, you guys can sign up dianekeeser.com/webinars. We start at 5 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll go for about 90 minutes. So today, it's kind of like the preview to that. So I'm going to cover a lot of ground on as much as I can, because I'm not a lobbyist. I'm not a politician. I am not in the market of being, I'm not a producer of these things. I'm not a manufacturer. I don't order these things. I am simply a doctor who is providing solutions for you to consider. And we don't know what's going to happen in this wild, wild west space of peptides. And remember, bioregulators is probably a safer bet, which is why we're covering that too. Because, and we will in future shows. I have a course that's going to come out talking about bioregulators. We did a podcast with Nick Andrews about 6 months ago on this. Bioregulators are typically in capsule form, or you can take them in injection form. They're typically 2 to 4 strains of amino acids, and they do different things in the body. They more so activate the nucleus of the cell to reactivate DNA that has otherwise gone dormant. And so it's like a DNA on switch for things that your body may have forgotten. And so it's a cellular communication from the inside out, whereas peptides that you're taking that you know of that are 5 or more, those are the ones that are working at the receptor site on the outside and are known to increase telomere length and have all sorts of data and studies on helping your body to self-heal. And why do we produce less peptides? It's because we have been poisoned at such a rate that our body cannot produce them at the level they used to. Right now, there's also a statistic that I wanted to share, because I want to always make sure I cover the basics, because some people are new here, right? Some people are new here. And if that's you, hi, introduce yourself below. Let us know where you're coming from, because every country is different too, what your access level to peptides is. Some countries cannot get them. Some are starting to roll them out. But right now, as it stands, there is something called the gray market, the black market for peptide access. And there's a lot that I can say about the political aspect of how we even got here. But what I'll say right now is that the FDA is not happy about this fact that they're not getting their cut. So and they also can't patent what nature creates, and we create our own of these things. And so they probably wouldn't have even gone after gray and black market peptides had it not been for them starting to produce retatrutide. Now they want their cut. That's Eli Lilly's patent. They have actually they've 7x their profits since they released Ozempic. And so they're making ridiculous amounts of money. And one of these first clips I'm going to share is actually about how these studies are even funded, how production is even occurs for any of these medications. It's enough to piss you off. And I'll have a little bit of commentary because I have about 6 clips to play. Because there is a lot that goes into where are we and connecting the dots with peptides and regulation and access. But 4 out of 5 peptides are accessed from gray or black market chains. The ones that we talk about are more gray. Their certificate of analysis, the APIs, in other words, the ingredients of what's in the peptides are coming out of China. And what's interesting is Eli Lilly and all of these other companies are going to be accessing the peptides from the same places, yet they are doing what a good narcissist would do, is project and say that they're doing bad things. They're getting it from China while they do the same exact thing. So that's the rule. In order to make money in this realm right now, you have to be a psychopath. Not necessarily. There's a way to do it cleanly, and that's the way that we like to operate in the ministry. Also, we will be, and I'll be talking about this very soon, speaking of empowering you to be your own best doctor, we'll be doing another, and I just found out there's a lot of you on the wait list to do another one of what we call the root cause reset, where, and I think, Paula, if there's a link to get on the wait list for that. I can't remember if we have a wait list link or if it's just emailing us to let us know that they want to be notified the next time we're doing a root cause reset. Put that in the banner if you could below. Whatever easiest way to do that would be great. In January, we had 18 people do the root cause reset with us. And what that meant is that we teach our patients how to interpret their own urinary toxicology report, understand what toxins that are coming out of their body, and more importantly, where they're being exposed to them and being poisoned by them. Because lots of people embark on cleanses. Many people will eat healthier. But until you know what your environment looks like and how it's poisoning you on a daily basis, especially mold, you'll never get to the root cause of why your body is cell signaling within itself to store body weight, to store body fat. You're never going to understand that. No diet's going to fix that. No GLP is going to resolve that. Temporarily, you will. But this is why people gain weight 4 times faster than dieters alone when they get off of these GLPs, because they've never addressed the root cause of why they're obese to begin with, which is toxicity. So in a 8-week intensive, we do weekly calls. We teach you where to find the toxins in your environment. Then we go and teach you what your lab reports mean and then how to resolve it. And the list on how to get on the wait list is below. If you go to dianekaiser.com/patient, you will see it there. So that's coming soon. We'll be making that a special announcement. Thank you, Paula. And speaking of teaching you what to do when you find the toxins on your urinary lab results, which is not something that your doctor will ever do, because they're not interested in teaching you what's making you sick. They're only interested in preserving you while you're sick to manage the inflammation and never get rid of the root cause of it, right? No one's going after arsonists in the CDC, FDA, NIH, or anybody else. This is the work that we do. This is the work that is the most important, and this is how people are getting better. If you want to have proof of that, go listen to the last couple podcasts we had with 2 guests who've been patients of ours, Wendy and Joanne. Truly remarkable results. Wendy has significant weight loss. Her whole life changed. And not just weight loss, the hormones, the sleep, the mood, the motivation, the food cravings that have reducing the food noise. And then go listen to Joanne, which was 2 weeks ago. She lost 25 pounds in 3-6 months and lost 15 years of her biological age, and was told that she needed to have double knee replacement surgery because she was in extreme pain. And she went from that and her doctor wanting to schedule surgery immediately to 0 knee pain, being able to exercise and being the strongest woman of any one of her personal trainer clients. So go listen to those. That's proof, if you guys want to hear, that we have great success stories. We have an amazing group of members. And if you're the kind of person that really wants to learn and grow and not be codependent on a system, we are all about sovereignty. And Paula is showing you guys how to find that. It's go to cleansehealignite.com or dianekaiser.com/podcast, and you will find those there. And speaking of one thing, what I'm drinking right now, and I wanted to cheers to you guys, even for being here. Thank you for joining me and for prioritizing you, ultimately. I've got pineapple juice in here, and then I have a binder called Carboxy. I take 1 scoop and I put it in here. And binders, if you don't know what binders are things that bind to the toxins within your body and successfully carry them out. Yes, activated charcoal is effective, but it also is known to bind to other important things like minerals and could leave you more deplete. We don't want that. Most people are already mineral deplete. Carboxy I sound like a commercial right now. Here's my drug commercial. Do you sometimes feel headaches? Do you sometimes feel like you can't sleep? Do you sometimes feel neurotic? Do you sometimes feel like you are gender confused and have no idea what sex you are? Or maybe you don't even want to have sex. Or maybe you are having sex, but you can't even enjoy it. Do you sometimes feel body pain, or like your knee, connective tissues are no longer holding together and your bones are just popping out? Do you sometimes feel like your hormones are all over the place, or you're gaining weight? Do you sometimes feel like you have chronic disease and are never going to find the end of the tunnel? And blah, 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 blah. That's my drug commercial for you guys. Well, I got the answer for you. Take some binders. Binders are toxin binders, and there are 5 different ones that we talk about. Carboxy, the powder, it's right here. If you guys follow me for a while, you know there's something called the Navage, which is something that we highly recommend people to do to drain and detox their brain. And it's very powerful. I have other videos on that. And this is one of the binders that I love that you can use for many of those things to clear the parasites in the brain, the poisons in the brain with an lavage, or also other things. I'm drinking it right now just so you guys can see, and cheers. It's black. Humic and fulvic acid for the win. And what's cool about this is that humic and fulvic acid are also very powerful and dense minerals that come straight from the earth. So there's nothing synthetic about these. So this is the foundations of health that we teach our patients and our members, that once you do these things, if you do stop peptides at some point, because they are expensive, no doubt, then, and if they take peptide access away, then you at least have the foundations of health and you've addressed the root cause reasons why you needed peptides to begin with. And then you become your own peptide producing factory. Yeah. So that's the logic that many people aren't talking about. They're slanging peptide advice to you. They're telling you that you should buy all these things with their affiliate link. And sure, I talk about that too. And these are still research grade peptides, although we have a lot of data. It's just that the CDC doesn't want to hear it. The FDA doesn't want to hear it. So anyway, we will talk about all of that in the root cause reset. We had a huge success of the first group of this year, and every single patient we tested was high in herbicides. High in herbicides. That's scary. We have glyphosate, we have atrazine, and we have a lot of other things that are contained in these things. If you're around any kind of golf course or parks or schools or anywhere that's spraying Roundup, it's not only the glyphosate that you're exposed to, which I thought that Bobby Kennedy and RFK were talking about taking it away. Oh, no, it's a national security threat to take it away. Okay, we'll just keep poisoning the people because they'll starve if we don't poison them. Okay, cool. We starve or we get poisoned. So this isn't going anywhere, you guys. Nobody's coming to save us. Even them, the politicians are the original ones who are like, oh, I'm the guru and the God, and we're going to come rescue you. And everybody just sits all complacent. Okay, we'll just keep praying. And they're passive and they don't do anything. You got to do something. Even God and Jesus talk about helping yourself, and that Christ lives within you. You are the temple. If you're treating it like trash, then technically you're in sin. So praying is not going to do shit for you, right? Okay. So I love Jesus. I love the metaphor of who Jesus represents. And that, anyway, that's a side note. So inside of glyphosate, and I'll get into the peptide stuff soon. Inside of Roundup is aluminum. And reminder, glyphosate is an antibiotic. So if every one of our 18 patients had this toxin in them, no wonder why we're not making our own GLPs. Antibiotics, which is what glyphosate is, destroy your gut and the microbes that actually are responsible for producing GLPs. So if you really want to take this whole thing full circle and not be so codependent on the system and decentralize your own personal healthcare, which is your responsibility, nobody else's, which is a gift. It's a true gift. If you guys say you're freedom lovers, this is the path. You are not free if you are dependent on a healthcare system that is designed to keep you sick, stuck, stupid, and suffering. Yeah, thank you, Paulette. Parkinson's. Yeah, show me a person who's got Parkinson's. I'll show you somebody who's got high levels of aluminum, glyphosate, atrazine, and plastic in the brain. It's just how it works. And we work with Parkinson's patients, there's the golf course connection right there. There's huge statistics, and it's something like 90 something percent. That's the 1 mile. Keep it there, Paula. Thank you. Overall, the analysis revealed that people who live within 1 mile of a golf course were 126% or 2.26 times more likely to receive a Parkinson's diagnosis than those whose homes were 6 or more miles away. And then scroll down. It says when researchers looked at households served by public water system that contained at least one golf course, Parkinson's risk was 96% higher compared to households whose water systems did not have a golf course within their boundaries and about 50% higher than people who use private wells. Additionally, when a golf course was in an area with groundwater vulnerable to contamination, the risk of Parkinson's was 82% higher than in less vulnerable areas with a golf course. Okay, so thank you, Paula. That's very important because this is truly just showing right here that most people, when they get diagnosed with Parkinson's, they are programmed to go talk to their doctor about some sort of immunosuppressant drug that numbs the symptoms of the pain that Parkinson's causes and surfaces. But your doctor will never tell you, hey, you're being poisoned. It might be glyphosate. It's bullshit. Make it make sense medicine. We're here to make a sense of it, right? So swearing alert, in case there's children in the room. room. I should probably say that, but I get so passionate about these topics that I'm just like, I hate watching you guys and your children and your pets be poisoned. Speaking of pets, we will have Dr. Judy Morgan coming up on the show soon. My dog Kayla is on a parasite cleanse using the Cellcore products, and I'm super stoked about that. So I'm not poisoning her with medications. She'll be on in 2 weeks. I love her. She is a true pioneer, and she is a badass warrior woman who is advocating for your pet's health. Okay, enough announcements for now. Let me get into the show. It is the show. What am I talking about? Okay, so foundational medicine is important. If you guys are interested in doing the root cause reset with us, we do have one of those weeks among 8 where I go into the bioregulators and peptide conversation. This may be the last one that we do where you will have access to these peptides the way that you do now. So get in here before we don't. I mean, right now it is the wild, wild west. And I can't tell you, it's a fast moving target. I can't tell you what the future of peptides is, but I found another article yesterday that said that 5,000 deliveries of peptides that were shipped from China, which is where they all are. They're all shipped from China, that were on their way to California. No, sorry, United States and Canada. They were seized. They were seized because they said that they were drugs. Peptides aren't drugs. Peptides are not drugs yet. And some of them have GLPs in it. Yeah, those are drugs. But things are starting to get lumped together because right now we should be looking at these things separately. There's GLPs like retatrutide, semaglutide, tirzepatide. There's other tides as well, cagrilintide. But those are the 3 main ones that are known. And then there's the other ones that are non-GLPs. Like I said earlier, if GLPs hadn't gone into the research grade, not for human use, for experimental purposes only industry, the FDA and the CDC would not be coming after probably the peptide industry as much as they are now, because retatrutide is their future cash king, and Ozempic and semaglutide has made them more money than any prescription drug ever in the history of the FDA, ever. So they want their cut. They don't want people using their patents. And I do want to talk about that next. Who funds the patents? Just we'll get there. But just as a reminder, those other peptides that are in the non-GLP space, the ones that are currently on category 2 lists that RFK is excited about, which there's a silver lining on both sides, you guys. If these only go into research, they go from research grade access to only being able to purchase them through a compound pharmacy. There are shadows and light to both of them. But if they go to available only through compound, which is 503B, stands for bulk, then you can no longer purchase them at the prices that they are now, which is probably going to be a 4th or 5th of the price as they are now. And you're going to only be able to get them through a doctor, through compound. Those ones that are currently set to go to category 2, which is compound, is most of the ones that you know of and the ones that we love. And there's lots of studies on, and I'll get to that next. BPC, LL37, DSEP, Eptalon, GHKCU, which is copper, Evamorelin, Kisspeptin, KPV, Melanotan, MOTC, CMAX-Selenk, thymosin beta-4, AOD, CJC-1295, and then thymosin alpha-1. Those are the 16 of the 19 that we are loving and have been loving, and there's lots of data on. So among that bulk of the 5,000 that were seized from China, there was a lot of these peptides I just listed, and then GLPs as well. So the lines are getting blurred. Who knows where those peptides were on their way to? Was it a company that was going to white label them and sell them for research purposes only? Was it for personal use? Where was it going? Nobody knows this, I don't think, right now, but it just goes to show that if people, which I know people who are doing this, they're buying large bulk peptides from China for $8 a vial for retatrutide. And that's for like a 5 milligram vial. Whereas from Limitless, you can get it for $100 for a 6 milligram vial. There's a big markup on that. But the problem is, and people who are doing this under the table from like black market, that's what's called a black market. They're buying them for $8 a vial, and then they're distributing them by themselves, and they're shipping them on their own. If you're doing that with people who are shipping them on their own, and rather than having a company like Limitless to do it for you, there's problems with that because there's not a lot of regulation around that. They may not ship them properly that are on ice to preserve the actual powder, so there's no denaturing or lacking purity, right? That's important. The second thing is a lot of these companies, that they start to get maybe cease and desist, or people find out they're doing this. If let's say the FDA finds out they're doing this, they could get a visit, knock on the door, and they could get in trouble because they are distributing something without proper channels. And they also could be poisoning people. So you guys might be getting them for a cheaper price, but there's an expense to that because you're dealing with the unknown. They're also taking away a lot of these companies, like Peptide Sciences shut down. What they start doing, as in the regulation bodies, is they will cease the ability for the companies to transact business, and they will take away their collection payment agency, whatever that is, that they're using to collect payments online, their credit card processor, whatever. So a lot of these companies have to work really, really hard in order to keep their business afloat. The research-grade peptides that come from Limitless, there are two previous FDA attorneys that are working with them to do as much as we can to preserve and protect our access now. We don't know the future. But that's why we're having a webinar tomorrow. We're going to talk more about this. So bring your questions, bring your skepticism. You know, you should be skeptical. This is a wild west that we're living in right now. So challenge me, challenge yourself, be there, ask the questions. We don't know how much time we have left. DianeKaiser.com/webinars. Okay, now let's get into it. Paula, let's play this first clip. So the Joe Rogan podcast has a lot of people talking about these topics. And so this first one, I want you guys to listen to this first little clip, and I've got 3 that we're going to play. So go ahead, Paula.
The things that academia will say, or some of the naysayers around peptides will say is, you know, the issue with peptides is there's not human control trials. The issue with peptides is there's not enough safety data. We recently provided the FDA with over 800 different studies that have been done on an array of the 19 peptides that were banned under the Biden administration. We've also made them aware that we've submitted 17 FOIA requests to the previous administration that were never responded to, just seeking clarity and answers. Where were you seeing safety issues? Because in clinical practice, we just weren't. And I can tell you at Wastewell now, we're at over 90,000 patients nationwide, and peptides were an integral part of of the practice of Wastewell, and we did not see a bunch of adverse events.
Okay. No data? Huh. No data at all. Paula, do you want to come on for a sec and explain what a FOIA request is? I wasn't going to bring you on, but I just thought about this because behind the scenes with America's Frontline Doctors, and also the work of a prominent attorney, they've been sending lots of FOIA requests when the jab had come out. And a FOIA request is basically demanding an answer, validating why they did not get, or why there was no safety. Say, why aren't you listening? Why aren't you looking at the data that we're providing you? Paula, do you want to talk a little bit more into that?
Hi there. Yeah, thank you. Nice little, there's always a surprise, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what we do here. I prepare a little bit, but I just kind of flow, and we're in flow. So meet Paula, everybody, if you're new here. She's our director and she's amazing.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you for having me. So basically, we all have access and should have the capability to access any information that's considered public. So there is a request process that you can utilize, which is called a FOIA request, and that's FOIA, and that is a Freedom of Information Act request. This is how you go and are able to access records from federal agencies. There's a certain way that you have to do it in writing. There's a reasonable time that they need to reply and respond to you, and it's a very specific format. So you could go and search, how to FOIA request properly. If there's something like, for example, if you were in the military, I'll just give one example on that. You may not have access to all of your records unless you FOIA request. They might not even give you access to all of your records about, where you were stationed, what you're doing, et cetera. Like if you were trying to, for example, submit a VA claim. And that's a process that you've got to go through. For the vaccines and this specific situation, there were many FOIA requests that were done on the part of my colleagues, actually, who are experts in this area, to ensure that the FOIA requests were done properly to garner the information about the vaccines what they were actually utilized for, how they were created, what the intentions and the purposes, what are the outcomes, right? What are the adverse outcomes that have been hidden from us? And there are literally millions of pages at this point. So that's how all of this documentation has come into the public record with a lot of this legal activity that you've seen. That was specifically done through FOIA requests. If those FOIA requests weren't done on behalf of all those, brave people that have been endeavoring in that area, we wouldn't have the information that we have now on the vaccines and what the dangers of those vaccines are. So FOIA request is very important. If there's information you need and a federal agency is, stonewalling, not giving it to you, learn how to do that process, and you can submit your own FOIA requests.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Paula. And, we were working behind the scenes about FOIA requests for the vaccines. What was in these things and what kind of ingredients were in them. And they were never replied to. And then also FOIA requests for whether or not a lot of these politicians even were voted in properly. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was a huge thing. Didn't we find out Biden wasn't even voted in properly?
It's a selection process, not an election process.
Well, we know that. But the proof of that is that the FOIA request was made and there was no proof or evidence that he was even, properly elected in, which is what started this whole skepticism on what truly is a elected politician, a selected politician, and whether or not our vote was even being counted.
Yeah, and a lot of that came out of Arizona, actually, too. Yes. So, and some of those, whistleblowers have unfortunately became targets. So you could look, and go down that rabbit hole. So yeah, we have all that information there to be seen, but it's, purposely hidden in their agendas. So I think we know what's up at this point. If you don't, I don't know how to help you. So
yeah, exactly. Thank you, Paula, for bringing that in.
You're welcome.
Because FOIA requests, people not knowing what that means, I think the context is important for what this man is saying on the Rogan podcast. Is they have actually provided all this data for, we do have a lot of statistics and studies on these actual peptides and the safety, and also that there's been nobody that's been harmed from them yet. A lot of the mainstream that we're hearing for people who are begging for FDA oversight and approval of these things with human trials and data are saying that they should never be taken because there is no safety studies. Well, there was no safety study or anything on the vaccine. It's polarity, and it's very okay. We'll get to that next. But what happens, just like Paula mentioned, is that when these FOIA requests are submitted and they're ignored, the people who submitted them, essentially they are admitting fault. They're admitting that they're actually not going to show you the proof. And we still don't even have proof that these politicians were even elected improperly. So there's the website. People I knew in Arizona who did make these FOIA requests. I knew many people. I was friends when this was all happening. And I knew not one person that submitted FOIA requests for anything, whether it was medical or political. Nobody got responses. Nobody, whether it's about the vaccine, the selected politicians, or anything. Now we're in the peptide space where people are getting completely stonewalled. It's crickets. And so we're trying to do, we as a collective, our advocacy on giving them proof. And they're like, nope, not going to listen. And so there is the other side of this. So people are like, why can't someone do something? And people in the comments, on social media are like, call your senators and let them know that they're not listening. They're not listening. So, save your breath, become your best doctor, be as decentralized as possible. And there's lots of proof for a lot of these things, even though you will be told that there's not. All right, let's listen to this next clip. We're going to keep talking about, the next question is, how do they even get to fund these studies where things become a drug? This one will shock the hell out of you.
We spent billions of dollars to innovate these drugs. We played within the rules of the system. And now these drugs hit the market, and you're allowing compounders and small independent pharmacies to rip off our patents, right? And that's their stance. And they plant that stake way over here. If that regulator only hears that part of the story, it's a compelling story. You look at it and go, God, man, poor Big Pharma, they spent all this money. But if you zoom out and you know the lay of the land a little bit more, which is hard if you don't come from this industry, the truth is always in the middle. So devil's advocate, of course you want to protect the patent rights of a company that spent billions of dollars to bring a drug to market. We've covered this before, though. The dirty secret is a large majority of the drugs that come to market come from the NIH. And phase 1 trials are done at the NIH. The NIH is funded by taxpayer dollars. You and I are paying to innovate and create molecules that then get licensed off to big pharmaceutical companies so they can bring them through the FDA approval process.
How is that legal?
How is that legal? How is that legal? Is there any law anymore? This is what we talk about common law in this episode a lot. And there are, speaking to whistleblowers, like I mentioned earlier, one of my good friends is David Wilcox's ex-wife. And it was just announced recently, yesterday, and is now circulating that he committed suicide. But nobody's getting any true documentation when they're asking the police, the authorities. Nothing. They said that they got a call and they showed up and he shot himself, and now he's disappeared. And he has been a whistleblower, and actually he's a peacemaker too. I mean, he's got some crazy theories and people have their judgments about him. But the main thing that he was trying to do is disclosure about potential alien life force out there, wherever out there means, outer space, which really, if you look at the map of the United States, that's a whole other topic. We did that with David Weiss. We don't know if the world's flat or whatever. I have a whole concept on that. And NASA's bullshit. They're funded by the CIA. That's also funded by our tax dollar. Like 2 to 3%, I think, of the budget goes to that. For what? Why are we flying around the moon? Distraction, maybe? April Fools? I don't know. Just throwing out some things. But anyway, what I was saying is that he is now missing. Whether or not he's dead or somewhere else, or he's been kidnapped, who knows? But now, of course, the next thing that is said to roll out on this big screen of life is that there is going to be some disclosure event, maybe Project Bluebeam, where they're saying that aliens have arrived, and it's going to distract people even more and scare the shit out of them. The more in fear we are, the easier we are to control. Okay, let's listen to this last clip from Joe Rogan's podcast. This is a good one to listen to the whole thing.
Are safe. Like, they are safe. 200 peptides are found naturally occurring in the human body. These are raw elements that are readily available in nature. The question is sterility, efficacy, and safety. And through the proper checks and balances, we can minimize most of those side effect profiles and optimize positive outcomes. But it requires restoring law and order to the land and implementing things the way they were before the mistake happened. And that's all I've been trying to argue. There's a way to fix this. And if you do that overnight, as much as I hate to say this, you make these big pharmaceutical companies ecstatic because you just got rid of 4 out of 5 weight loss drugs that were being filled with no clinician. And you do push it in a way back to the traditional system with the checks and balances that these regulatory bodies are so worried about. And the only argument against that is, well, peptides don't have enough robust human clinical trials with safety data. And then you go down that topic and I'm like, guys, you do realize, like we said, like 60 to 80% of drugs have a major label change. These are the drugs that make it through. Separate from that, every product that's in the operating room, I've covered this every time I've been on here. Every single 90% of the products in the operating room never had a human safety study. They were all brought in through the 510K approval process. Doctors are using things every day in practice that are either off-label or not validation tested or have no human safety studies. It is commonplace in medicine every day. So to make it this big to-do that all of a sudden it's dangerous, the most dangerous time we're living in is right now with no checks and balances. If we get this done, you've now built a regulatory pathway that provides affordability, accessibility, personalized medicine, predictive care. It is such a big win beyond a peptide because it candidly saves the industry. I can tell you, owning clinic, owning a telemedicine company, owning all of these things, none of that machine works if we can't create products that help people. right? And so
Okay, this is huge. Okay, so I want to come back to, and so you can zoom me out, Paul. We'll go to the next clip, an Instagram clip I want to play. What's so important here is, if you guys haven't seen the documentary Bleeding Edge yet, you will understand what they're referring to, or what he's referring to, when he was talking about 90% of products used in the operating room never had a human safety study, and then they came in through 510K approval process. So go watch the Bleeding Edge, the documentary. I've been talking about this for close to 10 years now, where meshes and breast implants and all sorts of other implantable devices have never really truly had any safety studies. They might be similar to another thing that has had safety studies, and they're like, that's good enough. That's what the 510K process is. 90% of things that they're using in the operating room have never had a human safety study. Yet listen to this naysayer, and I like some of her work. I never throw the baby out with the bathwater with anybody. I like some of this woman's work. But what you'll notice, if you go to check out this post, there's a lot of people below in the comments who are like, yeah, this is stupid. There's never been any safety study. That, there definitely need to be safety studies. And a lot of these people are definitely pro-vaccine. They probably multiple jabs, and they actually took COVID shots that had no safety studies. So the paradox is here that they're begging for safety studies, and they are judging people who are using peptides, saying that there are no safety studies, while this man who was talking about providing FOIA requests with all of the safety studies of all the things in the data, and never mind the decades of work that the Russians have done and other countries have done on peptides to prove that they are actually safe, and there's not really been any major adverse effects. So there is lots of data. They're not listening, and people are actually doing things, judging that the things that they've done, it's a paradox. The things that they've done have had no safety studies, yet they're begging for more. So this is what happens when people who listen to political and, let's say, FDA, CDC heads like Fauci are actually anointed as the authoritative figure to say, and then make it the only uniform message that you're hearing over and over again, that COVID shots are safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective. That's all you're hearing, but you never saw any safety studies before they launched it. They said that they, Operation Warp Speed, they made it super fast. And for that, there was no safety studies, but people still did it anyway. So people have been programmed to listen to what they say versus what they don't do. And also they are completely unaware that what they're not listening to is the proof that these things are actually more effective, and I'm saying peptides, than any other vaccine shot, because peptides are actually known to activate your immune system, cell signal your thymus gland to start working again like you were in your 20s, as opposed to people who are at the age of 50 who have lost 80% of its size and function. That's why people get so sick and get cancer, autoimmune disease, etc. The proof is there. They're not listening. Now listen to what she's saying about RFK and about the lack of safety studies. It's not hitting play. That's weird. Try it again, Paula. Whenever you get to hit play, and then hit the on the bottom, there's like that unmute it. It might work. And when it starts working again, then I'll stop talking. But if you look at a lot of the comments in this section, it's people who are saying exactly what I was just referring to. And it's very interesting because it's like a polarity divide. We have so many different camps of division, men and women, safety studies, no safety studies. Oh my gosh, there's so many tech issues happening right now. Sorry, I had a phone call. Okay, are you able to play it now? Hit the unmute button. I'm not sure why it's not. That's weird, it's not playing. Her name is Dr. Jessica Nurick. So you guys can go listen to this one. And she's talking about regulation and why regulation is so important. Anyway, I guess this is not going to work today. Maybe I can try it. So it's another divide. Is it regulated or is it not regulated? Is there safety studies or is there no safety studies? Let me try to play this on my own and see what happens. I'm going to hit share my screen and see what happens. Can you see this, Paula? Text me yes or no.
pre-licensing safety studies, pre-marketing safety studies in any drug that claims a specific indication and that's mass marketed. If you don't make those claims, if you're not mass marketed, then FDA does not require that. So like supplements are not regulated in that way by FDA. Peptides are not supposed to be regulated.
It's very important to understand that not regulating something you are injecting into your body doesn't protect you. It protects the people selling it to you. Companies and grifty influencers want fewer regulations because it's easier to sell products when you don't have to show they're safe or that they work. You can just use anecdotes and marketing strategies. But regulation protects you. The reason supplements aren't well regulated is not because that's ideal for the people. It's because the supplement industry and their incredibly strong lobbying arm fought hard against regulation and won with the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994. So now supplement companies don't have to show any evidence that their product is safe or effective before going to market. Why would we want that? I would like to know that the products I'm taking have been tested for safety and have been shown to do what they're claiming to do. Now RFK Jr. is trying to argue that peptides shouldn't be regulated either, something we are injecting into ourselves to treat or prevent all of these different conditions these practitioners are selling them for are not supposed to be regulated. We already regulate peptides, by the way, insulin, GLP-1 drugs, and many others, so saying they're not supposed to be regulated is absurd. Did you know that there are essentially no high-quality human trials on the peptides wellness influencers are selling? Virtually all the evidence is in rodents, including the safety data. So it would make sense if you were trying to protect the public to require some evidence of safety and efficacy in humans before allowing them to be sold. Which begs the question, why would an HHS secretary who seems to care so much about gold standard science want no regulation for these injections? It's to help out the supplement industry who's lobbying for this and to help out his wellness entrepreneur friends. Here's Brigham Bueller, an entrepreneur and ally to RFK Jr. He owns a wellness company providing peptide therapy. Here's Gary Brecka, who's been coined Maha's biohacking king, selling a bunch of peptides on his website. Alex Clark, who is a conservative media commentator promoting custom supplements and peptides. None of these people have advanced degrees in science or medicine, yet here they are building their businesses by selling you injections. And unfortunately for us, we have an HHS secretary who seems to care more about building the businesses of wellness influencers than he does about protecting public health.
Peptides are like...
All right, I'm coming back to you guys. So I'm glad I was able to play that because her point toward the end is bullshit. So when we're talking about MDs, those are the ones who are, who they claim are the gurus. That should be the only ones talking about this. They're not trained in health at all. They're trained in drugs. They're drug dealers. It's this whole thing is, it's an interest. It's so stupid. United States and the presidents and the leader heads program everybody that's an American, that's from the United States, that country is the best, the strongest, and the most free. That's also a lie. They are the cartel, but yet they say Mexico isn't safe because the cartel runs it. I feel safer in Mexico than I do in the United States. There was just a big group of 8 children that were killed in a home, and you can, like last week in Louisiana or something, it is insane what's happening in the United States. The corruption, the CNN article talking about 1,000 men who were online learning how to date rape their significant others, and the 67 million views and the multi-million views on how to date rape your daughter. I mean, it's disgusting. But yes, that's what gets exposed, but not the Epstein files or any accountability. It's ridiculous. So if we go back to that Instagram clip that I just played, this woman is begging for safety studies and human trials on peptides. But what human trials were there before she probably took the COVID shot? And the hundreds, if not thousands of people in the comments section that are definitely pro-vaccine and anti-peptides. And they're saying that it's because Bobby Kennedy has friends, and that's the only reason. That's bullshit too. I'm not Bobby Kennedy's friend. I've interviewed him once. Even I'm not here just to make money. I'm here to help people be healthy. I'm here for you guys to learn how to become your own best doctor and advocate and free yourself from the dependence on this system. Because once you understand war and illness are the most profitable industries in the world, you will understand how we even got here to begin with. And going back to the tax thing, the NIH, I didn't comment on that one. We've had interviews with Curry and the Freedom People about why taxation is slavery. And this is the perfect example of how medicine and the profitability of illness, you are literally funding it with your taxpayers' dollar. You are funding their research to launch more medications, 90% of which that are used in the OR have zero safety studies. Do you get it? Are you seeing it now? And the last thing I'm going to show here, and actually Paula's flying by the ticker, dianecaser.com/the freedom people, if you want to learn more about how to actually get a letter from the IRS that indicates you are free from having to file a 1041 and no longer have to pay taxes. It's not just about not paying taxes. It's about freedom. It's about not funding our slavery, war and illness. It's about realizing that you have more power than you realize. It's about having more net dollars so that you can actually invest in your health instead of follow and be reactive to your illness. It's about also understanding that 98% of the money that you think where your taxpayer dollars is going to build bridges and schools and roads is not actually going to where you're being told. If you can't see how these political figureheads are leading to you at this point, like Paula said earlier, we don't know what to do. So the number one thing that you can do to actually stop enslaving yourself is to look more into how to not fund the problem that is being perpetuated around you by the programming that we've been fed since birth. Okay. Now, this last clip, speaking of more decentralized medicine, and I'm going to cover a lot in the peptide webinar tomorrow, you guys, so just make sure you register for that. I want to just first talk about the future, the possibility of what's happening. dianecaser.com/webinars. I'll answer your questions.
My insurance denied my.
Okay, this next clip here is about what's happening in insurance. And if you guys think that you're covered with a health insurance plan, most of which, if anybody that you know gets cancer, if not you, it can take up to 2 years. That's the average to even get money back if you are promised reimbursement. It could take even money back 2 years for the doctor that you went to for some sort of injury to be paid on a claim. It's like having a mini lawsuit, and it's like a never-ending dangling carrot. And at this point, we are at a crazy point where AI has taken over claims. Let's listen to this clip.
My insurance denied my MRI because I didn't have 6 weeks of physical therapy.
I had another patient come in and share with me that United denied her inpatient stay.
I actually read this morning about a bill that's being proposed to be passed to give AI the ability to prescribe medications. I mean, yes, I know we're headed in that direction eventually. Doesn't that seem just a little bit dangerous?
Like, I'm in so much pain. I was like trying to tell the doctor that today, and like I have to wait for insurance.
It was in reference to using AI to triage patients in the emergency department.
Hey, just a reminder that you can't fix understaffing and equipment that doesn't work with AI.
It seems there isn't an industry where AI isn't being used. CEOs claim that AI makes everything so much more efficient, when the reality is they're just saving money because they don't have to pay as many human workers, and therefore the CEOs pocket that savings. When I was making the video about Palantir, I came across something that shocked me. Executives were bragging about how their AI agents were transforming insurance underwriting. Underwriting being the process of where these companies effectively assess your risk and decide if they want to offer you some type of coverage or not. What used to take humans 2 weeks to decide now only takes AI 3 hours. Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, said something that should terrify all of us. They're now using their AI to process claims and call for prior authorization. Then he said this.
There's places you would use certain models, but not others. How do you bring that back to your corpus of truth to understand in a lethal context who dies and who doesn't? And you have very similar use cases in underwriting and in healthcare.
He's referring to an AI deciding who gets treatment and who doesn't. After making that video, I couldn't stop thinking about what Alex Karp had said, and so I wanted to look at the healthcare industry more. How are they actually using artificial intelligence? It's darker than what I thought. Insurance providers are using AI to assess you and provide you with some type of policy.
Okay, I just really want to know if anybody knows him, the head of Palantir, because I think he's just so sexy. And I love his hair. I mean, I think that they should have had him on as the third Dumb and Dumber. He's like the dumbest. So I think they need to come out with like the trilogy, like part 3 of that, because if anybody knows him, please let me know how to get a hold of him, because I just think he is very attractive. And I love the fact that he has so much empathy and compassion for humans and is not, falling down the AI trail. He's so good looking. Just his hairdo, clown show, right? That's like the symbol of that hair. It looks like a clown. The reason I'm playing this clip is because soon we're going to be talking about a different approach to health insurance and coverage, where you're actually allowed to use the investment that you put toward insurance toward health wellness. And you do have coverage if you need it, but you're not mandated to go to the hospital and work with doctors only. And you won't have to wait for 2 damn years to get a claim paid out. And if anything, if there's new things that come out, like any kind of new GLP, like retatrutide, or a new cancer treatment, it won't be out of pocket as much, because and it's going to save you a lot of money as well. So we're going to get to that. But this last little clip here, this is the most important thing to understand about health insurance as you know it, and why we're also working to decentralize as much as possible. And we'll have another show coming up on that soon. So let's take a listen to this clip.
Will these AI companies be paid? And this is the most evil. I don't even know. Honestly, I don't know. These companies will be paid a percentage of the money they save. Think about what that means. The government will reward companies by having them receive a percentage of the savings associated with averted waste. They're literally incentivizing these companies to deny healthcare, because that's how they're going to make money. Make it make sense. Soon everyone from 18 to 65 is going to be filtered by an AI. The same AI that has a 90% error rate and has a review of 1.2 seconds. When I make these types of videos, I often wonder, how is this legal? And in some cases, it's not, whereas in other cases, yeah, it kind of is because of loopholes. But in terms of using AI to deny, that's actually illegal. And there's been a lot of lawsuits. Yet it's never enough for these companies to not do what they're doing. The state of Connecticut found that EV Core had 77 violations, and they fined the company $16,000. Not $16,000 per violation, $16,000 total. That's it. A company valued at $67 billion after Cigna purchased it, keep in mind. Meanwhile, these companies project to make millions into the future, probably from denying claims, yet they get fined just $16,000. I read that a lot of patients don't even realize that they can appeal these denials. And that's exactly what the insurance providers are banking on. They're hoping that these patients feel overwhelmed by the situation, that they don't have the time, the resources, or the understanding that they can appeal. They're hoping that these doctors don't advocate for their patients. But I want you to know that you can appeal these denials. And actually, a lot of people are using generative AI to do so. Effectively, they're fighting AI with AI. And surprisingly, this is one use case of generative AI that I can get behind, because it can feel very overwhelming by medical jargon and even perhaps legal jargon to appeal these denials, and AI is allowing people to do that. So please appeal your denials and prove them wrong.
All right, so when in the moment that you might need, in the urgent moment that you need insurance to cover you for an emergency or something, people think, as long as I have insurance, I could rest easy. Now you see, they were at the point where that's not as easy to do. So decentralized, like Mike Adams and I are talking about, as much as possible, Health Ranger, because when you need it the most and it's not there, this is what could actually deplete your savings, your wealth, everything that you've been doing your whole life to prepare for retirement or to have a nest egg for your future, your children, your dreams, your trips. And that is being completely killed. The American dream and your legal rights is being eroded. So we have a solution for that. We will talk about it soon. And this is enough just to scare you, to aware you, and ideally to take action, because this information isn't just enough. It should be inspiration so that you can do implementation and protect yourself, so that you know the things that you need are there when you need it. There's a company that we're talking to today, and we're probably going to bring it on the show, that pays claims in less than 30 days. And they have a huge claim rate payout. So there's always solutions I'm looking for you guys. The end goal would be to stay out of the hospital, to stay out of the need to go to the hospital as much as possible. The best hope for that is peptides and functional health, like we talked about in the ministry. In fact, right now, there is our VIP group if you guys want to join that. We have Coach Lisa on the other side talking about heavy metal poisoning and mineral and nutrient supplementation. And these are things that you guys, when you apply them, peptides work better. You're healthier, you feel better. Your odds are far less of going to the hospital and being admitted to an emergency room, an operating room, where, like we talked about today, 90% of the things that they're using have no clinical safety studies or trials. And also that would be and include biogenics, now that they're talking about biological agents, biological warfare, which is vaccines. If you're put under, at this point, they have full authority to inject you and bring you up to date with whatever vaccines that you are behind on without your consent. So it gets more and more sinister, and we want to protect you from that as much as possible so that you know your rights, you know that, and you have the courage to speak up and stand up for yourself. But above all else, protect yourself with companies and things and tools so that you are your own best doctor, and you also know how to stay away from the doctors that you see on television, the television. So I know this is a lot of information today, you guys. I really hope that it landed. And I also want to talk more about specifics on peptides on the webinar tomorrow. So that's dianekaiser.com/webinars. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And don't miss it. You guys can ask me anything live. Typically, people are paying to be in our elite VIP group where I talk more about these things and how to help people individually. And we run custom blood testing that has 85% more markers than a standard CBC. I'll talk all about that tomorrow as well. You get all courses that we have: the Parasite Full Moon Challenge, the full moon, the Warrior Cleanse, the explant solution course. Lots of women who have breast implants are now seeing how toxic panels that's the proof that their implants need to go. So lots of information here. We meet people where they are. And I have a great wide audience of different partners of doctors that I work with all over the United States and Mexico to support you guys with whatever you need. Because I'm not an explant surgeon. I'm not a biological dentist. I'm not a chiropractor. I'm not a stem cell doctor, but I have people in our group that I'm very close with that I am happy to refer you guys to. So anyway, see you guys tomorrow. And know that peptides, there's some urgency and some fire because we have no idea at what point they'll be taken away, what price they'll be, and what kind of hoops that you'll have to jump through to get them, to get access. Right now we have access, and that may be changing very soon. So thanks again for being here. I'm Dr. Diane Kaiser. Comment, share below. Make sure you're subscribing, and then also, let your friends know about this show because there's a lot of blind spots that people need to be made aware of. The only way that we can get out of this is the awareness and the action. And so we talked a lot about taxes today too, how you're literally funding the poisons that you're prescribed as the only solution to your problems, which is really just keeping you frozen in time, or at least your symptoms or the root cause of disease frozen in time while they suppress your immune system and why they're happy to sell you another chemo and radiation poisoning if you get cancer, while they'll keep an eye on it. Whereas we'll say, what caused the cancer? Let's get it out before it turns into a full-blown tumor or cancer that is hard to pull back from. All right, you guys, see you in 2 weeks on the show. If not, I'll see you tomorrow on the webinar, dianekaiser.com/webinars. Thanks for being here today. See you next time. Be well.